Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of Coffee and Real Estate. This is pre-show time. This is where we get an opportunity to maybe ask whatever weird question you might have, or even something off topic. Feel free. So feel free to ask any questions that might come up. I often use this time to just do to chat about stuff that's been going on. I mean, I hope everyone had a fantastic 2024. For me, 2024 was much more of a step back year. So the first 4 to 6 months of 2024 was just business as usual. Did some great work, helped some people, did a little bit in the second half of the year. But I had a really bad experience with a marketing organization. As a real estate guy, I mean, you're basically an independent business person. So every year I do a review of what I'm doing, what works and what doesn't work. And often in the real estate business, the things that you do need a year to as long as 2 years for you to start to see results. So it doesn't make sense to start something and do it for 3 months or 4 months. Unless, I mean, there's a specific reason why you'd have a shorter lifespan for that. But I'm always looking for more effective ways to do a variety of things. One, interact with you, whether it's this monthly Coffee and Real Estate show or it's the podcast, which I realize is very behind. It's been almost a year since the last podcast. I honestly intend to crank it back up this year, but we'll see how that goes. I've got a show already kind of planned out and ready to go. But anyway, in any event, in the 30 plus years I've been doing this since 1988. I've had a lot of disappointing experiences with a lot of different marketing companies, whether they're lead generators or just general marketing. But I've never had one of them violate a contract that they wrote that we signed. And that happened in early 2024. So this was with a company called Diverse. They refer to themselves as Diverse Realty, but they're also called Diverse Marketing. And I was very much enticed by their technology. For those of you who've known me or listened to my shows for a while, you know that I'm always looking for the hottest technology when I do these things. And they didn't deliver, kept part of my money. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I need to do a reevaluation. Definitely some lessons learned there, some things I will never do again. But for me, if it was the not living up to the contract thing isn't even disputed. They don't even dispute that they didn't deliver on what they promised. They admit they didn't. But then they also claim that somehow there was a discussion after that where they refunded half my money, which they did. But supposedly as part of that, it was me being willing to get no results and never get the remaining part of my money back, which is ridiculous. There was never an addendum signed or a change of the contract signed to indicate that was a reality. So from a provable standpoint, I wouldn't work with them. They don't live up to their contracts. And from a personal, and this is almost a he said, she said, but there was no point where I agreed to not having them keeping my money tied to results, right? Anyone who's known me for longer than an hour knows that's not something I would do in any capacity. So there's, for those of you who follow me on X or in Facebook, you know I've been sending out weekly warnings for a while now relating to Diverse. And it's a shame. I still think their technology is interesting, but there's clearly something else wrong going on. But what's really interesting is because of the stuff I've been putting out in social media, at least 5 people have reached out to me and we were able to chat, and they decided not to go with Diverse based on my experience. And at least that's comforting. I mean, the whole point of doing it is it's twofold, right? To try to shame them into realizing they're doing a unethical, poorly considered business thing by keeping my money and not delivering the results that they promised. But it's also to warn people. I mean, if it's going to cost me X thousands of dollars to learn from this experience, then I would love to spread the lesson around to other people. So that's where I'm at. If you want to know more about that experience, feel free to reach out to me. You can go to soldbyrobert.com. You can email me, you can call me, whatever you want to do. But so anyway, 2024 has been an interesting year. I did an awful lot of long distance market stuff in terms of looking at other markets. As some of you know, my son moved to Houston, Texas to go to law school this year. So I drove him out there and I made my return trip sort of a market thing. So I looked around in Houston. I looked around in a few towns on the way, looked in near Flagstaff. And early last year, middle of last year, kind of discovered the Carson Valley in Nevada and really liked that. I've been back to Carson Valley numerous times. In fact, I was there last weekend. I think that was my 4th trip in the last 5 months, 6 months. And I think it's a beautiful place, particularly the closer you get to the Sierras, right? The views of the mountains are just freaking amazing. So I'll probably end up doing a show on that when people are thinking where to invest. Because one thing people hate, and a lot of people I talk to locally, people who may want to get into real estate investing really don't want something that's super far away. They don't want to be a California person and own a Connecticut property, right? They feel like it's just too far away. They feel like proximity is needed. And if you're going to be more of a hands-on landlord or a hands-on property owner investor, then yeah, okay, that makes sense because you'd have to be going out there all the time. But if not, if you're going to delegate everything to a property management firm, then it's less of an issue. But for those of us who live here, Carson Valley, for instance, is only 4.5 hours away by a drive. So I think that might be within the comfort envelope. And I'll tell you, with all the laws that are coming out in California now, I am not, and this is a discussion. We could actually have a whole show just on this, where, the main reason why California real estate is so attractive, while it may be the rents that you're going to be able to get for it, it's the appreciation you're likely to enjoy, right? If you look at home prices over a long period of time in the Carson Valley compared to here, well, there's no comparison, right? The appreciation in Carson Valley is nowhere near what it's been in the Bay Area. But the amount of state, county, and city interfering with you is far lower. And if you have a non-performing tenant, someone who's not paying their rent, you're going to get them out of there fast in Nevada. And in California, I have talked to investors who have completely divested out of California, maybe owned 4 or 5 homes that they'd accumulated over 30, 40 years that were really going to be their retirement. And they sold everything off because there was one person in Palo Alto. And you know what? I got another story from Palo Alto. So one person who sold their property about 1.5 years ago, but the person who was in it had been in there for 18 months, 2 years, and they couldn't get rid of him. No extenuating circumstances. It was just other than COVID, but it was ridiculous. The person hadn't lost their job. The person was still working. They just stopped paying their rent. There's something ongoing right now with a seller I'm working with who owns a Palo Alto home where they cannot get the tenant out. It has been a year since they started even having conversations about wanting to get the tenant out, but the tenant won't get out and the tenant won't pay the rent. So again, places like Nevada tend to respect property rights. And if you have an agreement with a landlord that you're going to rent a house and you stop paying, you don't get to stay there. You have to get out. So that's an interesting dynamic that I think is worth it. And that's why it's one of the reasons I divested out of Hawaii. Some of you know I had some properties in Hawaii. So I'm looking at acquiring income properties in other areas that are more friendly to landlords, where I'm going to do long hold, right? I'm not going to worry about appreciation. I'm going to worry about how much rent I'm getting and how much return on investment I get on that. And there's another conversation, right? What's the right number? The stock market has tended to perform. On average, I get people saying, well, 10%, 9%, and that's not always true. But if you average it out over the long haul, when investors are looking at real estate investing, they normally want greater than 10% because they could just easily put that money into the stock market and make that 10% just by doing an index fund, right? An S&P index fund. But while that's not wrong, there's still some variability, though, and volatility potentially in the stock market. And you need to weigh in your mind the peace of mind of knowing I own a property, it's renting, and it's very pin downable, right? The rent's not going to vary much over the course of time. If anything, it should go up. So why would I want to put myself up for the stock market to be the thing, right? That's driving my income. On average, from what I'm seeing 7 to 9% return on investment in some of the deals I've been able to talk myself into in places like the Carson Valley, the broader Carson Valley. Some places more readily negotiable than others. So it's interesting stuff, and it's information I think some folks might be interested in if you're talking about potentially becoming an investor. All right, we've got just under 4 minutes until the official show starts. As you may or may not know, this is the Coffee and Real Estate pre-show. We start at 10 a.m. on the third Saturday of every month, and what we do is cover all of the latest real estate information and data, which is what we're going to do today. We'll start off, as we always do, with our local data for Santa Clara County, San Jose, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy. And that's just to give us, obviously Santa Clara County is a huge county, larger data points, a bigger number of data points. So likely more useful data, right? The more data you have, the more reliable it is. And then we move down into places like San Jose, which is really the biggest market in Santa Clara County, and then go into Morgan Hill and Gilroy to get a bit of a peek into some of the smaller communities in the county. But welcome to it. If you'd like to ask any questions, feel free. If you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or X, you'll be able to watch the show. You'll only be able to ask me a question, though, if you are on, I believe it's YouTube, Facebook, and maybe LinkedIn. Not 100% sure. Let's see here. Let's just do a quick check and see if we're running on all the platforms. Yeah, YouTube is up and running. LinkedIn is up and running. And X does not appear to be up and running. What if I go to my profile? Do I see it? Yep, I do see it. So we're up on all of them. Good, excellent. Just 1 minute left. We're going to kick off here, or a minute and a half, till we're going to kick off with the regular show here. But again, good time to ask any questions you might have is now. Of course, once we've covered some data, if the data brings up any questions for you, feel free to reach out via the chat. And for those of you who are watching, obviously I'll answer any questions verbally, so it won't be a problem. You'll know what's going on. But you'll also see questions pop up on the screen, like right there. Once we get going, the questions will pop up on the screen from let's see, what are all the things? From YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Any questions from there? Anything from Facebook will not show up there, but again, I'll repeat the question and answer it for anybody who isn't watching on Facebook. All right, just about 30 seconds till we kick off things for real. I can't think if there's anything else interesting. Going to be doing some fun stuff with one of my sons today. We're going to go up and do a cruise in the bay. I think it's for his work, but it seemed like a fun opportunity for us to hang out. So we're going to do that today. I don't have coffee today. My coffee is just this stuff. I needed to get what do you call it? Just like the Gatorade stuff, right? To get my electrolytes squared away. All right, folks, that is it. It is 10 o'clock. That means it is time for Coffee and Real Estate Live Chat. This is something we do every Saturday, every third Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. Welcome to it. I appreciate you taking the time to spend your Saturday morning with me. My name is Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker and realtor right here in Silicon Valley. I've been doing this since 1988, so over 30 years. God, I think we're 35 years now. Is it 37 years? Oh my gosh. Anyway, so a very long time where I've served just about all the communities in Santa Clara County. If you would like to get more information about your current estimated value of your home. I've got a great tool on my website. Head over to soldbyrobert.com. Right there on the front page, you just enter your address. You don't need to share any personal information with me. It will simply show you what the HomeBot system estimates the market value of your home to be. I find the tool that I'm using tends to be more accurate than the Zillows and the Redfins and the Trulias and Realtor.com and all that stuff. And again, I'm very much of a techie guy, so I'm always reviewing what tech I'm using to help my clients. And I changed over to HomeBot about a year and a half ago, and they've been fantastic in terms of how much closer to reality that they've tended to be. So feel free to check that out. If you'd like to get a monthly update and you'd like to get access to all of the amazing tools that come with that, you will need to provide an email address. But if you just want to manually check in once, a lot of the things that I suggest homeowners do on at least a yearly basis in terms of, how much equity do you have in the property? What is the lay of the land as it relates to your home? Happens all automatically with the tools that are included with the HomeBot thing that you'd be signing up for. So feel free to check that out. And of course, you can always cancel at any time. But it's out there for you. And I hope you're able to make use of it. I think it's a great tool. All right. Let's see. So now we're going to go ahead and jump in and take a look at the latest notes, the latest info on our market. It's been an interesting one. There's also some interesting predictions that I saw getting put out there. I think was it Realtor.com that made some predictions? I'm pretty sure I put that article on the ones to review today, so we can chat about that later. But as we always do, we're going to start off with total homes on the market. Now, what this basically is how many homes did buyers have to choose from? And if you're a seller, the perspective would be, how much competition did I have? How many other homes in the month of, November? You know what? It's not. It is December. Let me just verify. Yes, it is December. I just forgot to update the header from November to December. So apologies for that. I ran these numbers late yesterday, and I did update all of them, but I just forgot to update that to December. So this is for December. I apologize for the error in the header. So this is a year-over-year comparison, and I think a year-over-year comparison is often way more informative in terms of understanding how far the market has come, because this is the same time of year. There's no seasonal influences here. This is December of this year, or December of 2024 compared to December of 2023. So let's go ahead and jump in. Santa Clara County saw a 19% increase in the total number of homes on the market, 760 in December of 2023, 908 in December of 2024. San Jose saw a 17% increase, 374 in 2023, 437 in 2024. Morgan Hill, 47% increase, 34 homes in 2023, 50 homes in 2024. And Gilroy saw a 2% increase, 48 in 2023, 49 in 2024. There's no real mystery to draw out of that in terms of big market swings, but it is interesting to note that in terms of the big numbers, we're seeing the overall inventory continuing to increase. So I think that's the takeaway, right, from this particular slide is, in general, inventory is going up. And if I'm not mistaken, that error is going to be on every slide here in terms of the November, December thing. Again, on this slide, it says November on the top. It's actually December. Apologies. When we get to the other slides that are just month to month, that won't be a problem because there's no header like that on it. But anyway, so Santa Clara County, in terms of new listings, now a new listing is simply in the month of December, how many sellers signed an MLS agreement that said that home would go on the market in December. So these are homes that came on the market, were visible for sale. How many of them were added in the month of December? And this is an interesting one. It's up 38% from the same time last year. To have that happen in December is a little bit weird. Normally we see this happen in January. So there may be a lot of pent-up sellers out there who've been thinking about selling for a while who sort of jumped on in December. But it's very weird to see things added at this level particularly remember, we're comparing December to December here, so that's a pretty big jump. Now, it was a 38% increase from December of 2023, where we had 404 homes added to the market and then 556 homes added to the market in December of 2024. San Jose was a 36% increase, 222 in December of 2023, and then 301 in December of 2024. Morgan Hill, an 86% increase, 14 in December of 2023, and 26 in December of 2024. Gilroy saw a decrease in the number of homes that went on the market. So that's an interesting change. Gilroy is always sort of a weird outlier in many of these stats. And as those of you who've been watching this particular chat on a regular basis know that for a while I've been calling out Gilroy as a great place for buyers to get better deals on homes, without having to change what they want from the home and keeping that price more manageable. Gilroy's been a great option. So anyway, 13% less than last year, which is an interesting trend. We'll see how that dovetails in with some other things. Now, this is the total number of homes sold, and you can see that in addition to having inventory overall increase, we also had a pretty big increase in the number of homes. We had an increase in the number of homes that were listed and an increase in the number of homes that were sold. Still had a net overall increase in inventory, obviously, for the month, but let's continue on and see how this plays out. But so 24% increase in the total number of homes sold from December of 2023 to December of 2024. 668 in 2023, 827 in 2024. San Jose saw a 24% increase as well. 360 in 2023, 445 in 2024. Morgan Hill saw a 14% increase, 28 in 2023, 32 in 2024. And Gilroy saw a 7% increase, 29 homes in 2023, 31 homes in 2024. And again, that since we saw such a big increase in the number of homes that were added to the market in December, it kind of makes sense that you would see the homes sold numbers go up, right? Because there's classes of homes that are simply going to get snapped up relatively quickly, simply because they're the best example of homes in that price point, that type of thing. So it also makes sense that since we saw not a lot of active listings, it was literally one different between 2023 and 2024 for Gilroy, that we wouldn't see a big jump in the number of homes sold. But historically, Gilroy has lagged behind other communities in terms of the total number of homes sold. So, all right. Oh, and let's cover real quick here. I want to see if we've added to the market or subtracted from the market. Dang it. All right, here we go. All right, so the question is, we sold 827 in the county, but we listed 556. So did we add to or decrease the total number of homes on the market? Did we add to total active listings or did we subtract? So what's interesting is in past months, we have been adding to the market. In this case, we didn't. We listed 556, but we sold 827, and that was a net 271 fewer homes, right? So we sold in just numeric forms, not by physical home. We sold every home that was listed in the month plus 271, right? So we didn't add to the marketplace. In San Jose, we had 445 homes that sold versus 301 homes that were listed. So in that case, 144 homes more were sold than were listed. So we did not add to the active listings. In fact, we sold off homes from existing inventory from previous months. Same goes for Morgan Hill. We had 32 homes that sold, and we had 26 homes that listed. So we sold more than we listed to the tune of 6 homes. And in Gilroy, we had 20 new listings and 31 homes sold. So we had 11 homes total that were taken off of the existing. We didn't add to the inventory. So that's interesting because last month that wasn't the case. Last month when we talked about this, we were discussing how homes were being added to the inventory. And that didn't happen this time around. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the months of inventory. Now, months of inventory just basically tells us if we froze the inventory numbers and we froze the sold per month numbers, how long would it take to sell off that existing inventory, right? And numbers remain ridiculously low. So 0% change for both Santa Clara County and San Jose. 1.1 months for Santa Clara County and 1 month for San Jose, which is ridiculously low, very much indicates a seller's market. Nationally, they tend to consider 4.5 to 5 months a balanced market, and we're nowhere near a balanced market. So it's just ridiculous. Morgan Hill saw a 33% increase in the total months of inventory, 1.2 in 2023, 1.6 in 2024. Gilroy saw a 6% decrease. So their market moved more towards a seller's market, 1.7 months in 2023, 1.6 months in 2024. Next, pending homes. Now, what this means is what homes had their status changed to contingent or pending in December of 2024, which indicates they accepted an offer, right? So an offer was accepted, and what we would expect to see when looking at these numbers is how many of these will then close in the following month, right? Because that doesn't mean it's sold. It just means an offer was accepted, and it usually takes 30 to 45 days for escrow to close. So this is a leading indicator of how many sold homes we'll likely see for the January numbers of 2025. Now, Santa Clara County saw a 2% increase. So interestingly enough, not a huge jump in the number of homes that saw a offer accepted. So it was 510 in 2023 in December and 522 in December of 2024. San Jose saw a 6% increase, 276 homes in 2023 in December, and 292 homes in December of 2024. Morgan Hill saw a 4% decline, and given the small change here, I just call it a wash. I just say it's the same as last year. 27 homes in 2023, 26 homes in 2024. Gilroy saw a little bit more of a dip in terms of the total number of homes that went pending. 27 homes in 2023, 17 homes in 2024. That's a 37% drop. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at original list price. And this is one that doesn't get reported very frequently by other folks. I like it because it gives us a little bit of insight into the psychology of sellers. What were sellers' expectations when they listed their home? Because this represents the price that they asked the day it went on the market. So this doesn't include any price increases or decreases after they listed the home. But for those homes that were listed in December, what was that asking price? What were the expectations of sellers in December of 2024? Excuse me. So in Santa Clara County, comparing December of 2023 to December of 2024, we saw a 7.1% increase in seller expectations. So in 2023, 1,757,000. In 2024, 1,882,000. Those were the averages for those 2 years. In San Jose, we saw a 16% increase in expectations. 1,299,000 in December of 2023 and 1,506,000 in December of 2024. Morgan Hill saw a 23% increase, 1,284,000 last year or in 2023 and 1,580,000 in December of 2024. Morgan Hill historically has tended on average, but also keep in mind that this is a more volatile number because of the small sample size. But in general, Morgan Hill has tended to have, its sellers have tended to expect to get a lot more for its homes than other communities. And we'll see how close to reality Morgan Hill was in December. In Gilroy, it was up 11.2%, 1,221,000 for December of 2023, $1,358,000 on average for 2024. And remember, these are just the average initial asking price. No changes have happened. This is the day it went on the market, how much were sellers hoping to get for their property. Now let's take a look at the comparison here, and we'll figure out how much they did or didn't meet expectations. Interestingly enough, none of the communities that we look at actually met expectations. A couple were closer, but none of them met expectations right on. So in terms, now this is average sales price. This is what homes actually sold for. If the home sold in December of 2024, that's the number you're seeing in the column in each section to the right. So we'll start with Santa Clara County, 13.5% increase in the average sales price. $1,648,000 in 2023, $1,871,950. So basically $1,872,000 in 2024. San Jose saw a 6.5% increase, $1,403,000 in 2023, $1,495,000 in 2024. Morgan Hill, $1,505,000 in 2023, down 5.2% to $1,426,883 in 2024. Gilroy also down from $1,149,000 in 2023 to $1,079,000 in 2024. Now, if we consider what expectations were in December versus what folks got in Santa Clara County and San Jose, well, we'll do them individually. So in Santa Clara County, what sellers were expecting to get versus what they got, they tended to get $10,383 below expectations. In San Jose, they tended to get $11,662 below expectations. In Morgan Hill, they tended to get a whopping $153,468 below expectations. And Gilroy is coming in at the top on this one in terms of the difference between expectations and reality. On average, in Gilroy, sellers got $278,958 below the expected price that they wanted to get in December. So not great for sellers. I mean, a lot of folks having to realize that they need to reduce their prices or figure out some other way to market the home. But expectations in Morgan Hill and Gilroy were clearly out of whack from what could be achieved on the open market for their homes. Next, let's go ahead and talk about percent over under asking price. This basically is going to tell us how much over or under asking price homes were selling for. Now, this number has remained insanely high throughout the winter so far, with the exception of this month of December of 2024, where we saw Gilroy dip below 100%, which I think it also did in November, if I'm not mistaken. But Santa Clara County is showing some pretty robust numbers here. Last year, or in 2023, they were getting 102.1% of asking price at the time the home sold. And keep in mind, this is at the time the home sold. This is not compared to original list price. This is a buyer came in, and this is a way of peeking inside the brain of the buyer, right? A buyer came in and was willing to pay this much over the price at the time they viewed the home, right? So this is including any increases or decreases in the asking price of the home. That's included in this particular number. So we can see that 102.1% in 2023 and 2024, that number jumped to 103.5. So basically 3.5% over asking price was what was going on in Santa Clara County in general. And that's a 1.4% increase, like actual direct increase between those 2 years. In San Jose, they had basically a 1.5% increase in how much they were going to be making, 2% in 2023, 3.5% in 2024 above asking price. Morgan Hill, this number's down, 102.6 in 2023, 100.4 in 2024. Basically, sellers getting about asking price at the time of sale. And in Gilroy, it was 100.2 in 2023. In 2024, dropped down to 97.8. So 2.2% below asking price on average, with a 2.4% dip from 2023 to 2024. And again, I think that is a reflection of the advice I've been giving for folks. Gilroy is still a great place to go to buy homes. If you're looking Granted, there are some submarkets. If you're looking in northwestern Gilroy, which is where Christopher High School is located, which is an excellent school. It's probably the best school in the South Valley, best high school in the South Valley. That's a fantastic area. I really love that area. If you're looking for more of an estate, if you're looking to still spend a little bit more, but you want more, you want some acreage, you want a bigger home, Northeast Gilroy has some amazing, really, you have to call them estates rather than just homes, but they're beautiful homes. And you can get those for a much more reasonable price than you could get anything like that anywhere north of Gilroy. Next, let's take a look at how many days on market. So in Santa Clara County, we can see that the days on markets actually went up year over year between December of 2023 and December of 2024. 25 days in 2023, 30 days in 2024. That's a 20% increase. San Jose, a 23% increase, 22 days in 2023, 27 days in 2024. Morgan Hill saw an increase of 56%, 27 days in 2023, 42 days in 2024. And Gilroy saw a 61% increase, 31 days in 2023, 50 days in 2024. So it's taking longer. And as I've said before, this is a number that once you get over, say, 14 to 18 days as the days on market, you know those are real numbers, meaning no one came along to make an offer until those amount of days had passed. When someone lists the home in our local markets, typically what they'll say is, we're not going to look at any offers until such and such a date at such and such a time. And usually that's a week and a half to 2 weeks after the home's been listed so that they can get 2 weekends of open houses for folks to view the property. And once you see numbers this high, it's not artificially being set by what realtors are putting into listings. Those are real numbers, meaning that just there was no offer or interested party until that number of days had passed. Next, let's take a look at, then this is over time. So we're not doing year over year anymore. Now we're looking just back over time in all of Santa Clara County. And we're just focusing on the county so that we have the largest sample size, so that we're getting the best possible and most reliable data. First, let's take a look at total active listings and look at the trend. We can see a downward trend from September. You can see up here, this is September, and then the total active listings just continues to drop really precipitously. It did the same thing in 2023, did the same thing in 2024. So that's the general trend we can expect. Now look at what happened in January for every one of those years. We saw an increase in inventory. This is very normal. This is what I would expect. I would expect active listings to increase in January. January and February frequently are big. You can see that in 2023, we had sort of a weird fluctuation there, but the line we see here in January and February of 2024 is actually pretty typical. We start to see the market come back in January and February, and usually it's flat or maybe a little bit of an increase in March, and then a nice big ramp up as we head into May. And then we start to see all of our solds start to creep in at that point. And what's interesting is we've had plenty of years over the last 5 or 6 where the selling cycle started much earlier. The standard wisdom among most real estate folks has been, you're going to get your best price in June. You're going to get the most offers in June. It's still a great month, but we have seen years where March, April, May outperform June in terms of the quality of the offers that folks get and the ability of sellers to get their homes sold. Next, let's take a look at new listings. Again, mirroring the active listings in this case, big drop in new listings. If we look at previous years, we see that also tends to be the trend. You see a big drop, but December tends to be the month when that turns around. So we start to see in January, and it grows like crazy, right? So these are new listings, people who decided to list their homes, and we tend to see the peak in May. And I'm not going to be surprised if that's exactly what happens this time. I would expect to see a big jump in the total number of new listings, and we'll see if sales keep up with that. But if we see sales like we did in December, because that was a little bit unusual for a December, where we're selling off more homes than we're listing, we could see some ebbing away on the total active listings, which would be an interesting thing to see in our local markets. Next, let's take a look at total number of homes sold. We can see, again, a decline. That's what typically happens October, November, December. We see home sales declining. People tend to not want to do this stuff during Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then we start to see a uptick in January. Now, keep in mind that the bottoming out that you see, you need to realize that the total homes sold is what happens after the home goes pending. So we're going to see the pending thing here, but we can see in the past there's been a decline in the total number of homes sold in each year, with then it pivoting in January and increasing. Remember that all the homes we see sold in January of 2024, for instance, those are all homes that went into contract in December of 2023. So the real attention last year, in terms of attention to the property, in terms of people making offers, actually started in December, which then reflected a bottom. Excuse me, didn't, because of where it is, because that's the bottom. You know, we had the least amount of offers accepted in December. That's the point I was trying to make. I think I went in a weird circle there, but that's why it lags a little there, because it's lagging behind pendings. Big increase after January. Again, I expect to see the same thing. I would expect to see total homes sold bottoming out in January, with then an uptick that peaks probably around May or June of 2025. And finally, if we look at pending, we can see that it should mirror solds by a previous month, right? So we see pendings bottoming out in December, which makes total sense, because then we see solds bottoming out the following month, right? So, and we see the same thing in December of 2022 versus January of 2023. But what happens is it bottoms out in December and then starts its increase in January, February, March, April, May, right up to May. Same thing in 2024. Again, I would expect to see the exact same thing. I would expect to see an increase in offers that are accepted, homes going pending, in January of 2025. So no big surprises there. I think all of the trends that we see reflected here will happen in the upcoming months of 2025. Now let's just plot average list price versus average sales price. The average sales price is the darker green, and we can see overall list price, original list price, what sellers expect to get and what they got is very close, but we can see just a little bit that actual sales price dipped a tiny bit below list price. List price was just a little bit above, and when that was reflected in the numbers we talked about earlier. But right now, we're not seeing the craziness of past years where the average sales price was blowing out what the average asking price was. In fact, those days aren't even really reflected. We can see that in 2022 and 2023 had a pretty good chunk of time where the average list price was way above what homes were on average selling for in Santa Clara County. And as a just percent of asking price, again, this is now plotted out over time just to see what the trend has been. 103.5 is what we had for December of 2024. We peaked in April of 2024. April of 2023 wasn't really the peak point. It was July. And we can see way back in May of 2022 is 111.6, which is just insane. But we can see things have actually been relatively flat since July of 2024. We didn't get, and this was probably the biggest miss for me in 2024 in terms of expectations. I expected us to see a much bigger drop from, say, April, May, June, and July. After July, I expected to see much more of a drop off in this number. And instead, it stayed relatively flat and even boosted up a little bit in October. And then started to come down in the rest of the winter. So I was very surprised. As you can see from past years, usually we see a bit of a decline. Didn't really see that in 2024, which was a little bit of a shocker. Next, Santa Clara County days on market. We can see we're actually at a high point. It's the highest we've been since February, March of 2023. So that's interesting, and that's an indicator of not as many buyers as maybe would be expected out on the marketplace, or these things would be selling more quickly. But then when you look at over asking price, the percent of asking price, clearly folks who are buying are willing to go above and beyond asking price by a decent percentage, 2 to 3%, to acquire those properties. Of course, you're not having to do that in Gilroy, where you're able to see about a 2% drop from asking price. But an interesting trend. What do we expect to see? Well, we're looking at December of 2024, and we can see that after December of 2020, December in all the years of 2022, 2023, that in January we tend to see days on market peaking in January. And again, this is based off of homes sold. So remember, we see a peak in the total days on market for a home that accepted an offer in December. And I expect to see the same thing. I would expect us to see days on market peaking in January of 2025. And we'll see if that prediction ends up holding true. Next, this is a rundown of the percent of listings with reduced prices in December of 2024. And this is the first month this has ever happened. In terms of the percent of the existing inventory, across the board, it was 12%. I double-checked the math 3 times to make sure that that wasn't wrong. Now, last month in Santa Clara County, we saw 18% of inventory had a price reduction, only 12% this month. San Jose had 19% with 12% this month. Morgan Hill had 20% in November with 12% in December, and Gilroy had 21% in November with 12% in December. The year-over-year change for Santa Clara County was an increase of 22%. San Jose, an increase of 13%. Morgan Hill, an increase of 50%. Interesting enough, Gilroy, compared to a year ago, had fewer price reductions. One reason I think that's true is I think that the folks in Gilroy are more calibrated to what their property will get in the market. So they've been pricing it more reasonably. Their pricing has not been way outside of what the market will bear. So I think that's one reason why that's what we've tended to see. All right. So let's go ahead now and do a quick review of some of the articles that I've been finding out there. So first, this is an interesting one. Housing January 13th weekly update, inventory down 1.7% week over week, up 23.6 year over year. And of course, we can see that our inventory was up 19% year over year. So our inventory isn't up as much as it is nationally, which I think is normal. I mean, our market tends to see that be the thing that happens. I wanted to share, which chart was it? Was it this one? Single family active inventory. And we can see that across the board here, historically it's down. But if we look at January, year over year down up 23.6%, down 23.3 from 2019. So I thought that was kind of an interesting one, just to sort of get a feel for where we are compared to past years. A much bigger trend down than some other years, where in some cases it trended up or was flat or went down. But an interesting indicator. So if you were going to try to figure out, well, what does that represent in terms of, does that mean we're going to have a year like that year? So here's the purple one, and I think this is the purple right here, 2021. Be very interesting if we had a 2021 again for the real estate market, but I honestly don't see that being a thing. December of 2024, top 20 hottest housing markets. I wanted to point this one out because there is nothing in the West, right? Just nothing. No Californias, no Oregons, no Washingtons, no Nevadas. This is all middle of the country or east. So Illinois, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Neenah, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania. Yeah, just in Kansas. So nothing real close to us that is categorized by the folks at Realtor.com as hot. 2025 Realtor.com home price forecast. I thought this was an interesting one. They expect things to be flat for 2025. I don't think that's wrong nationally. I think that we will probably buck the trend here in Silicon Valley just because we always do. But this could also spell an interesting window of time where, let's say you are thinking about relocating and leaving the state. This could be a great opportunity where your property values are considered to go up at a greater rate than where you might want to move to, because we're just not seeing the dramatic increases. In fact, we're on a downward trend. And from the areas I look at as sort of canaries in the coal mine, Phoenix, Austin, I'm now looking a lot more at Nevada. I see price reductions and I see lower prices endlessly. So these are all places where if you're thinking about going, 2025 might be the sweet spot for you to get that done, just in terms of the best possible trade, right? Where you're going to get the best amount for your home here and the lowest amount for your home there. I know I am looking to take advantage of 2025. I'm going to be buying some investment properties in other markets. They may be in Carson City, maybe in Phoenix, maybe in Austin, but I am definitely going to be spending some quality time in 2025 going to those markets and getting some ground truth. And just see where things go from there. And again, I think the strategy for folks who are thinking about getting into investing right now is less how much appreciation will I get, and more how rentable is the property. What are the odds that if I have a problem with a tenant, I'm going to be stuck with not getting paid rent for multiple months? In California, you need to count it not in months but in years. I can't remember if you get a tenant who does that and they decide to use that against you. It's really hard to get those folks out of your property. So, just one reason why I'm not super enthusiastic about California. Let's see here. Next on the hit parade. I didn't have a lot of news stories to hit today. I wanted to, as usual, I want to do a little self-promotion here. This is my website, soldbyrobert.com, and this is the tool that you can use to get an idea of what your home is worth. Let's go with 1, 2, 3, 4, someplace in Florida here. And note, it'll just tell you the price. I didn't give it any information. So enter your address, and you'll get this. Now, if you want all of these other tools that have a little padlock on them, you can give me your email address and go for it. I mean, it'll give you a monthly update on the value of your home, plus access to all the various tools that are listed there. Let's see, the Reventure app. Now, if anyone's got any questions, this would be the time we could use the Reventure app to take a look at a variety of different locations. We can do it by, let's see, how about, we'll do it by county. But again, this is a tool that I can use for anywhere in the country. So if you have questions about other markets you're interested in, feel free. Right now, we're talking about how home value growth, 5-year, 46.2%. From December of 2019 to December of 2024, it went from 1.1 million to 1.6 million. That's pretty darn healthy, or pretty large, I guess is the way to put it. 5-year growth. We can also look at home value. Just virtually a straight up line. We can look at home value growth, and those are just percentages, right? Going back to 2001. Overvalued. This is one of those ones I find interesting because this is where they consider it to be profoundly overvalued. But it's what the market will bear. Value versus income. So lots of different data that we can cover there. So I don't see anyone having any questions about that. So we can just blow right through. Next, like I usually like to do, is I take a community like Morgan Hill or Gilroy or San Jose. For the purposes that we're looking at here for a loan, these would be the same. Whether you put in San Jose, Gilroy, Saratoga, Campbell, Sunnyvale, if you put in any of those, you're going to get the same results. But I took this December of 2024 average home price assumed you're going to put down 20%, and this is the loans we're seeing. So in addition to giving someone $285,000, the best loan that we're seeing here, the lowest payment would be $7,494. Now this would be you're living in it. This would be a primary residence loan. And this is with Smart Asset. So, and I suggest using as many tools as you can find out there when you're searching for a mortgage. And when you decide on a certain area, a certain city, in that city, look for credit unions and talk to a couple of them about what they can do for you, because I'm finding an awful lot of credit unions. You obviously have to open an account with them and that sort of thing, but some of their loans are amazing, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Now, this tool is a little different. It's got some more options down here. You can use primary, secondary, or rental. I find secondary and rental tend to get you the same results, but notice here, same statistics, same numbers, and it's 6.45, and we don't see that. See, it's $400 difference. We don't even see this lender on this tool, which is just one reason why I think it's so important to make sure that you're looking in all the various nooks and crannies. So that's for a 30-year fixed loan on a primary residence. If you go with a secondary residence, still a really good number. That's actually a great number. I may call them up. And notice, so you'll see it's 6.55 at 7.1. Okay. So then it goes up. In most areas, I have found that secondary and rental tend to have the same rate, but we're not seeing that today. And interestingly enough, these two just changed place. Tomo was first. What did I do? Did I do something weird? Was Tomo first on the... yeah. Tomo was first on the occupied one. So there you go. So those are just various ways to shop. And I'll be probably giving them a call, just because that's a great number. All right, folks. I hope there's been some valuable information on this for you today. As I mentioned at the top of the show, my name is Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker and realtor right here in Silicon Valley. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions, concerns, if you'd like to figure out a great strategy to reach your real estate goals, whether that's buying or selling. And don't forget, I've got those tools on my website, whether you want to get a free home value estimate or you'd like to start your home search. So thanks again for spending your time with me this Saturday morning, and I look forward to seeing you all next